and welcome. This is Utah Divorce Planning. I'm Billy Peterson. This is Shaun Peterson.
Hello.
It's April 13th, the year 2020. This is the year when time stood still. Many of you are out there, if you're watching this video, you're either thinking about divorce, you're contemplating what could happen, or you may have a friend or family member who may be dealing with that scenario. So we wanted to share some of the factors that we use here at Utah Divorce Planning to help people through that difficult process. There are basically three ways people can get divorced here in Utah or in the United States. Essentially is the traditional route where you each go into separate corners and hire attorneys and then fight it out until you get a resolution, which may end up in a mediation or it may end up in court. Some of those cases are bloody battles and can last for years. We've seen cases last 2 or 3 years that we've been involved in trying to help people just sort it out. But when you get the anger and the emotions run high, the costs are going to skyrocket.
Financially and emotionally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The second method is more of a collaborative type of an approach where you have a scenario with two attorneys. Each party has an attorney. They hire a certified divorce financial analyst or a financial expert, and sometimes they hire other folks to come in and deal with the issues with parenting and guidelines there, custody arrangements, stuff like that.
Sure.
So you have all the experts when you get in one room. That's called a collaborative approach to divorce, and we've had a really good experience with that approach. We think the outcomes are much better, not only less costly, but also on the emotional side, as Shaun mentioned.
And even to expand further on that is the settlement side too. I mean, each party gets to be heard talking to one another, not talking through attorneys, which can create a lot of tension and maybe not understanding why one person is asking for an asset or why one person believes a good alimony figure is XYZ. Everyone's in the same room and they can actually talk about it. It doesn't mean people don't get emotional or maybe a little bit angry, because it is a very stressful time, but it just makes for open communication.
Right. Yes, everyone in the same room, and we're really trying to come to the agreement. Everyone's really trying to work hard to get to that center point. Right now, as you know, everything locked down, it's very difficult to have meetings in office. So we're involved in a case where we're doing a Zoom type meeting, and so we've been doing the collaborative approach with these clients and their attorneys, and we've had 2 different Zoom meetings. It's worked very effectively, where everyone's on the same computer screens. We're seeing everyone's face. They're all able to contribute, to share their feelings, their worries, their uncertainties, or some of the things that they don't agree with. We're able to talk through those. And then if we have too much of a difficulty, we can take a time out, and you can actually go into separate rooms. So the attorneys have created separate rooms where people can go in and collaborate together for a few moments and discuss their worries or their concerns, and then we can reconvene. So those types of scenarios are working out well and collaborative. The third type of scenario is potentially where you do it yourself, or you may hire like a financial expert to come in and just help you with some of the bigger issues like dividing property. What's a good number for spousal support? Is there a solution for that? Could you do a buyout scenario, for example? Those often come to us and call us for help in getting through it. Usually those are the least expensive route to take, but sometimes you can easily get stuck. And I will say this, that unless both parties are very agreeable and working really in good natured spirit to reach a settlement, those are more of a rarity. We've worked with a number of those, I'd say a handful of those in the years we've been doing this.
Yeah.
And they work well, again, with a good spirit and collaborative spirit with the people. They don't really want attorneys involved. They just want some help getting through it, and they're going to come up with the solution on their own. So those are the 3 methods as far as how it's going to go from most expensive down to least in that regard. Pros and cons of each. We want to walk people through it. And a lot of times folks will call their attorney or call an attorney, when they go into getting divorced. That's usually the traditional route, right?
That's typically what we see is the tradition where folks will go out and say, first thing I need is an attorney. And if you want an attorney, that's great. But I think it's very important to consider hiring a CDFA. And people will say, well, how and when do I hire a CDFA?
And what is a CDFA?
Certified Divorce Financial Analysts. That's the designation that I hold and Billy holds. And we went through some very specific training and testing and continue to get CE throughout the year where we can keep that designation. So provided by the Institute of Divorce Financial Analysts, IDFA. So how and when? We think bringing in a CDFA early as possible is a wise thing. Right. I think what we're seeing couples fight over most in a divorce, probably first is children, if they have minor children, and second, our finances. So that's where we come in to help specialize with the finances. Now, if you already have an attorney, that's okay, but what you might want to consider is asking them, should we bring a CDFA into this? And I think the good ones will say yes, because if they're really being honest, they don't understand tax ramifications, growth rates of certain assets, implications of dividing an annuity versus a 401k or keeping the house. They're kind of just looking at things on paper and trying to make it equal all the way down. On paper, though, sometimes equal isn't equal because a lot of factors have to be considered with that.
So let's share with everyone out there on our screen as far as how we work with clients. Sure. So now you're going to be seeing our reporting and in adding all of the assets of a marital estate and even separate assets. So things that could be considered separate property, like an inheritance or an asset that was never part of the marriage, never commingled, for example.
Right.
So we can add in everything there to help decide or help determine the appropriate asset division, not only before tax, but then peel back the curtain and look at the after-tax consequences, right?
Right.
And then those assets and how they can contribute to an income.
Yeah.
Do they to the second problem you talked about?
Yeah, that's a good point. As do these assets produce an income? Are they eligible to take an income out of? Is there going to be early withdrawal penalties? There's so much to consider with that. And I think another point where we can add some value is saying, okay, this looks fair after we consider all those things, but what about considering 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, even 20 years down the road? Does my net worth compare to my spouse? How does my income look? Am I going to be okay overall? Because that's what people want to know. Am I going to be okay financially? And that's really where we can come in and add some value.
I think that's one of the best ways to sum up what we do is help people sort through the weeds and determine their future, project out if they will be okay with that given scenario or that given settlement. Sometimes people just get latched onto an asset and they want to hold on to that. For example, a home, and they don't even consider what a pension or an annuity or a 401k plan might do in exchange for that. So we help them analyze all of those things, not only today, how it looks today, but more importantly, what's going to be the case 10 years from now versus your spouse. Net worth wise, are you really staying up in line? Are you going together, or have you completely gone in disparity because just of the way you divided the assets? And homes, as we know, are one of the biggest issues in a marriage, and usually people just have that comfort and that peace of mind that it does very little to help a person retire or have an income in retirement or support themselves even today.
It can be an expense in a lot of cases.
And high maintenance and high taxes, etc. So we help them divide that, and you see on the screen is looking not only at the division of marital assets, but also then the budget, because every client needs to develop a budget. So if you're hiring an attorney or you're working with us just separately, you're going to be asked to prepare a financial declaration, and that will include all of your assets, but also a list of your monthly expenses. So each party would be asked to detail out their monthly budget. And that would most likely start with what you're used to, but we really want to take it a step further and say, what do you expect to be spending now as you part of a separate household?
Right.
Usually, as you can probably well imagine, folks like to inflate their numbers, okay? They want to say that they need $500 for a vacation every month, or they need $1,000 for gifts, or they need $600 for clothing every month, when in fact they really weren't spending those numbers or even coming close. So our job is then help people sort through it based on, well, really, what was your income when you were saying you were spending this? And now let's divide that income and create two households. How are you going to spend these numbers? How are you going to budget that? And by the way, are you putting anything away for your own retirement or yourself? Maybe you're in retirement, and how are you going to manage the withdrawals and the need for distribution because you're no longer employed?
Yeah.
Does one party maybe need to consider going back to work? Maybe one or both. So a lot of these questions need to be answered, and they sometimes cannot get answered by going the traditional route, putting the boxing gloves on and wanting to punch each other into oblivion. We know the emotions are high. We know that divorce can be a very difficult, trying experience, mostly because people can't calm themselves down enough to look past the present moment a little bit and just say, what's going to happen down the road? Can we at least come to terms on some of these things? Try to get along, try to remain somewhat working relationship with my spouse, who I spent how many years with, right? So those are the things we need to remember when going through divorce. The kids are number one, and the kids didn't ask for this. The kids need to understand that you can work with your ex-spouse,
Exactly.
and they will learn a lot. Life lesson from this: don't try to belittle the ex-spouse or make yourself appear to be the innocent one and the victim of all the negativity coming from the other side. Try to take the high road, if we can say, just get away from the financial side for a minute and the emotional side, because we've seen, in working with dozens of clients in this, we've seen the bloodshed, we've seen the negative outcomes, and most of the time they're the ones that are taking the small things and blowing them out of proportion.
Yeah.
And using the kids almost as pawns to do so.
Yeah, that's not a good strategy at all. So I would say, if you're wondering, do I need a CDFA? Call us. We're happy to talk to you over the phone. Free 15, 20-minute consultation on the phone, determine if we can add value. Even if you already have an attorney, if you have a good attorney, they want good team players. We can either be part of the team or we can actually quarterback it too. We have a good network of attorneys that know how we work. They know how to work with us, and we like working with them. So give us a buzz. We're always available to chat with you and see if we're a good fit for your case.
Love to talk to you. Like Shaun said, give us a call or an email. We'll set up a time. You have a free 15-minute consultation. We'll decide if we're a good fit. If we're not, we'll help you find maybe a location or someone who is. So take care out there. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.